Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here with all of you. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to share with you about what's happening with the transshipment hub for Puerto Rico. This is a huge opportunity that we have been working on, PRMA, and I have to thank Invest Puerto Rico as well for allowing us to share the presentation of what we have been doing so far, what this is all about, and where it's going to be heading. Also, as you can see, I'm going to be doing, same as Lydia, I'm going to be using the good old Spanglish throughout the presentation for the benefit of those non-Spanish speaking audience. Okay, so with that being said, let me start sharing my screen here with you all so we can start going through the presentation. Okay, just allow me 1 second here. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Yes. Okay, and I hope you are all seeing my screen right now. And let me just put this on. Okay, there we go. If I'm not mistaken, you all have the presentation right in front of you. For those of you I have not had the pleasure to meet personally, my name is Tom Vincent. I'm the Vice President of Premier Corp, a local logistics company here in Puerto Rico. We handle air freight, ocean freight, and all types of logistics. And at the same time, I also preside the PRMA Transportation and Logistics Committee. Now let's go through the presentation that we're going to be sharing with you today. Initially, we're going to be talking about the transshipment hub in Puerto Rico. This is an initiative that started several years ago, and I got to give special thanks to a person who has been deeply involved in this throughout, right since the start of this, which is Mr. Jerónimo Lectora. He's been a cornerstone thing we've been doing with this initiative, and he is actively engaged in this as well. Now, we're going to be talking about the transshipment here in Puerto Rico for air freight, and we're also going to be talking about the possibility of eliminating the AES transmission, or in other words, what we used to know as the SED. What is all of this about? Puerto Rico, as you can see, is a global logistics leader serving as the highest volume port system in the Caribbean. In 2020, Puerto Rico was granted the first and only U.S. Department of Transportation waiver that allows the international transfer of passengers and cargo in the island's 3 international airports. This designation as a transshipment hub provides the island with the perfect opportunity to leverage its logistics expertise and establish new international travel and commercial routes, while helping companies cut costs, reduce shipping times, and ensure top quality handling of any product. The new status helps companies in every sector navigate the post-COVID landscape more efficiently. International access, cost-effective supply lines, and top logistics expertise as a transshipment hub maximizes the existing local airport infrastructure and logistics industry expertise to make international shipping more cost-effective for business. This new landscape strengthens the local economy by giving companies in Puerto Rico a front row seat to international markets. It encourages more travel and tourism by attracting new airlines, and it complements the effort to reshore critical pharmaceuticals and supplies by connecting local bioscience excellence with the U.S. and global market. What does this new DOT waiver allow? It allows transfer of passengers and cargo from one carrier to another, or on forward carriage to a foreign destination. Change of gauge services that allows carriers of cargo and passengers to change aircraft without changing the flight number. Commingling of U.S. and foreign cargo and passengers on the same flights heading to U.S. destinations. Airline services enabling cargo and passengers to transfer between carriers as long as both companies are similarly U.S. based or foreign. and the co-terminal operations, where carriers can split utilization for aircraft that make stops in Puerto Rico and other U.S. airports. What are the benefits to the airlines? All foreign airlines will have the same transfer rights if the operations are done at one of Puerto Rico's international airports. Keep in mind that the three international airports that were approved for this was number one, San Juan, Aguadilla, Borinquen, and Ponce. Roosevelt Roads was not included in this particular stage, okay, but it could be included later on. Combining different airline networks will create new connection opportunities that extend each airline's geographical reach. Airlines can now deliver cargo to places through a partner airline if their own network is limited. This lowers operational expenses, enhances services, and improves profitability as fewer planes are needed. Air carriers can load cargo from many destinations into the same incoming plane, then consolidate and transfer outgoing cargo according to country or airport. Transfer and consolidation scenarios mean fewer planes with higher cargo yields to arrive at each destination. Just to give you an example of this, if you take a flight from Frankfurt to Sao Paulo, you're talking roughly about a 10-hour flight, 10, 12-hour flight, okay? Now, to move a plane 10 or 12 hours, the amount of fuel you need to carry, which is very heavy, reduces the amount of cargo that you can board on that aircraft. If you make a stop halfway through, which would be Puerto Rico, okay, in San Juan, Aguadilla, you could refuel, and in both lanes, you can haul a lot more cargo. Cargo would be revenue producing. Fuel obviously is not. Also, better directional balance of cargo. Instead of flying an empty leg, airlines can now stop in Puerto Rico to pick up cargo for the return flight. This improves aircraft utilization as well as increases the earning potential. Now, one thing that we need to make a parenthesis right here is after COVID, and in one of our meetings this came up, and it was mentioned that after COVID, now all the airlines are basically startups. They're all re-engineering what they're going to be doing. They're all looking at their business models to see how they can be successful. Now, why is Puerto Rico the ideal Caribbean gateway? New air hub regulations apply to the three main airports on the island, as I said, Borinquen, San Juan, and Ponce. Okay, Puerto Rico is the only location in the U.S. to earn a flexible cargo and passenger transfer hub. This is so much so that Alaska, who has a similar waiver, okay, they had it, but without cargo. Now, when they saw what we did, they're applying for their renewal, and they're also asking to be able to do it with passengers, as we did. So they're following our example. Refueling stops save airlines money and allow them to carry more cargo. Biosciences products currently represent 90% of all air cargo leaving Puerto Rico. The new air cargo regulations enable the island to manufacture and distribute even more critical materials to the U.S. and the rest of the world. Puerto Rico is at the center of the air routes between the Americas, Europe, and the Middle East, making it the perfect pit stop for these international flights. 1,730 companies representing 57% of the island's GDP rely on air cargo. So what can all these additional routes do for us and for these companies? The new air hub regulations allow companies in Puerto Rico to capitalize on Puerto Rico's numerous foreign trade zones. The local pharmaceutical companies also rely on the cold chain excellence of the Puerto Rican logistics industry, with existing infrastructure that ensures that the temperature-sensitive products go from the plant to the customer without any interruption. And we stand at the nexus of opportunities. Priority to reshore, accelerate life-critical manufacturing, given the island's rich history of pharmaceutical and medical device manufacturing. Industry restructuring, COVID-19's global impact and the airline industry's contraction entail restructuring passenger routes to maximize high yield and high value belly cargo. This is, like I said, all airlines now are a startup after COVID. And we've seen this, with the same airline servicing Puerto Rico, how they have transformed the routes that they're handling, the frequency. We're seeing it with the international carriers. You saw that all the 747s are getting parked now, okay, and put in storage, taking out of service. The foreign trade zone, a strategic location with expansive and readily available free trade zone designations offering regional, local, reducing supply chain options. Also, the fact of being a U.S. jurisdiction makes the perfect mix of U.S. protections and island government policy with unique international banking expertise and flexibility. Now, how does this look when we map it out in Puerto Rico? Okay, here we can see all of our air transfer hubs, okay, which are San Juan, Borinquen, and Ponce. We can see our ports, our main ports being San Juan, Ponce, and Mayagüez, and additional ports that could be developed as we move down the road. And also airports, other regional airports that could also be developed into participating in all of this. And our road infrastructure, how to interconnect all these airports and ports in Puerto Rico, which, by the way, needless to say, there are several projects right now on the table to maximize our potential to be able to interconnect these. Like, for example, we all know, if you have traveled Route number 2 across the northern part of the island, where you take PR 22 out to Arecibo, and once you hook on in Atillo to get over to Ramey, what used to be Ramey Base, Borinquen and Aguadilla, I don't know how many traffic lights we got to go through. There is a project already on the table to see how we can eliminate most of those traffic lights and make that be almost kind of like an expressway, okay? So all these things will enable us to interconnect all these ports, seaports, and airports. Now let's look at the airport profiles. How San Juan, Aguadilla, and Ponce stack up, okay? And this is pre-COVID, needless to say. Passenger-wise, San Juan moved 8.4 million passengers, Borinquen 472,000, and Ponce 168,000. In inbound pounds of freight, San Juan moved 301.5 million versus Aguadilla 69.4 million and Ponce 342,700. On the outbound pound exports, San Juan had 170.9 million, Borinquen 58, and Ponce 2,720. The load factor out of San Juan of 87.14 is higher than the national average of 86.42 passenger miles as proportion of available seat miles in percent. That means that San Juan, as a destination or origin hub, is probably one of the most profitable and best business decisions for an airline because precisely of their load factor. And Borinquen also has as attractives, which it has, number one, an advanced MRO facility over there where all the A320s and A319s are being serviced and the 321s. Okay, it has also an extensive runway. It's the longest in the Caribbean. And by the way, there's being a second runway that is being built parallel to that runway. FAA has already approved the funding, and the current runway will be used as taxiway. So it'll expand considerably the infrastructure of that Aguadilla airport. In addition to that, the refueling station is a free trade zone, meaning that the fuel isn't taxed, leading to one of the lowest jet fuel prices in the hemisphere. So it makes more sense again, for airlines to stop in and refuel in Aguadilla. And if we get that same free trade zone status for the fuel in San Juan, it'll even make San Juan as attractive as well. Now, in Roosevelt Roads, the former Roosevelt Roads Naval Station offers their scheduled passenger service to the island municipality of Vieques and Culebra. Airport grounds include an aviation maintenance school, various aerospace testing sites, and an 11,000-foot runway. This airport offers development opportunity, but is not yet fully operational. So, huge opportunity and looking into the future for Roosevelt Roads for areas of potential expansion. Now, if we look at our two main international airports, Aguadilla and San Juan, and how they rank in regards to the other airports in the East Coast, we are considerably better off total load factor wise than any of these other airports. As a matter of fact, we're ranked number 1 and number 2, Aguadilla and San Juan, as you can see in the figures, with a total load factor in Aguadilla of 88.61 load factor and San Juan with an 88.31. The nearest to us is 84.51, which is Baltimore, Washington. We're even ahead of JFK and Miami. So it makes a lot of sense, okay? And we have room for a lot of substantial growth. Foreign trade zones, okay? The largest non-contiguous free trade zone in the U.S. The foreign trade zones, or FTCs, allow the companies to obtain significant savings since raw material components and finished goods can be stored or processed within a zone, while deferring or eliminating the custom duty rate of such merchandise. If items are shipped to non-U.S. destination, the payment of duties is also exempted. For example, FTC number 7, Puerto Rico Foreign Trade Zone, administered by the Puerto Rico Industrial Development Company, is the largest non-contiguous FTZ in the U.S., having a total of 4,500 acres, 714 buildings with a total of 19.5 million square feet located all around the island. FTC number 61, San Juan Foreign Trade Zone, administered by la Compañía de Comercio y Exportación. The zone is located in the Guaynabo area on the northern coast of Puerto Rico, adjacent to the San Juan port, the Caribbean's busiest maritime hub. This zone has 23 sites, 693 acres across 10 municipalities. FTZ 173, Zona Libre del Sur, administered by Codesol CL. The zone is located at the Port of the Americas in the city of Ponce on the southern coast of Puerto Rico, 5 minutes from Ponce's Mercedita International Airport. And needless to say, although you may not realize right now the potential of the interaction between the Mercedita Airport and the Port of Ponce, there could be a huge interaction opportunity for added value processes that could take place in nearby industrial centers that could also fall under the free trade zone in Ponce, opening a realm of opportunities to probably interconnect with the rest of the Caribbean, using Ponce as that connecting hub, both ocean and air. Now, if we tie this initiative hand in hand with the initiative of reshoring manufacturing bound back to Puerto Rico, COVID is accelerating the national push to reshore production of critical materials like pharmaceuticals and medical devices. Puerto Rico's expertise in these sectors reinforces the opportunity that being a transship hub presents. New air hub regulations benefit biotech companies and enable them to reach a broader set of customers and clients. Puerto Rico's status as a global transfer hub adds value to the local bioscience industry by creating more efficient shipping routes, reducing logistics costs, and facilitating supply chain integration. Not only for bringing new manufacturing opportunities to the island, but just think for the second, those of you that are in the manufacturing sector at this time, if you have a broader amount of options to connect between Puerto Rico and the markets you serve and the suppliers from which you bring in your materials, you have expanded routes available to you. How many more opportunities of being more competitive within your organization could you be to attract new product lines to Puerto Rico as well? So there's opportunities of expansion for both the new coming back, like, for example, China fired, Puerto Rico hired. This could go hand in hand with those initiatives. What is the economic expected impact of all of this? And based on the studies looking at growth at the Ted Stevens Anchorage, Alaska International Airport, which I told you before, Alaska has a similar waiver as we do, the amendments are expected to have a monumental impact on Puerto Rico's economy. Over the next 12 years, this policy is expected to generate at least 1.5 million new passengers, $614 million in direct impact, $515 million in indirect impact, with a total impact of 1.13 billion and a total of 17,000 new jobs. And this is looking at it from a very conservative perspective. Now, bioscience leadership, it's in our DNA. We are right now the powerhouse of pharma manufacturing in US and even globally. And let me give you a little bit of background so you can see, because this is something we got to be very proud of, and we all have to be promoting within and outside of our organizations globally. Over 60 years of experience in the pharma and medical devices manufacturing, over 30 years of excellence in sterile manufacturing. Now, this sector contributes 30% of Puerto Rico's total GDP, 50% of the manufacturing activity, 30% of the total jobs in manufacturing, and over 94,000 jobs. The local excellence with over 30 medical devices companies, including 15 of the top 20. FDA Class 3 device manufacturers, 5.5 times more industry experts are in medical devices, and 8.6 times pharma experts than the national average. So it makes a ton of sense, to look at Puerto Rico as the next point where to expand or where to bring your operations. The largest exporter of biopharmaceuticals in the entire United States. Indiana follows us. Okay, they're ranked number 2nd, and they only export about half of what we export out of Puerto Rico. And we have the highest concentration of both pharmaceutical manufacturing and medical devices experts in the US. And we have the highest proportion of STEM degrees in the entire US. Putting all those things together, my God, it only makes sense to look at Puerto Rico as that place of expansion. Now, making our way for growing the tourism opportunities. The high value proposition, we have a diverse experiences with ease of proximity. And why do we want to touch on tourism as well? Well, if you saw at the beginning when we spoke about this waiver has to do with cargo and passengers. So all these aircraft that bring cargo in their bellies, they have passengers in the top portion. And there's a ton of these origin points or in lane segments that could move passengers into Puerto Rico and help us boost our tourism economy. We have a wide range of lodging alternatives to meet a variety of preferences and budgets, and an ease of access to much of US from Puerto Rico. It's a premier Caribbean destination for meetings, conventions, incentives, and events. There's an abundant meeting facilities, both metro and in non-metro area. Largest, most technologically advanced convention center in the Caribbean. And El Distrito, which is now to open sometime here in 2020. I saw the hotel is already operating over there, and I saw some of the restaurants, but the venue should probably be operational fully very shortly there, which is another huge attraction. The resiliency and enhanced product brand and brand repositioning fueled record comeback. Post Maria, the rebuilding has delivered new and refurbished hotels. In 2019, hotel revenues per available room neared an all-time record. In 2019, also, our visitor demand reached an all-time record as well. And lodging revenues reached an all-time record. So we were on the right track right before COVID hit. So it'll be very smooth riding to be back on track again, following the same strategies that we have utilized so far. Now, let me take you to the next topic. And by the way, if you have any questions or so during the process, please feel free to enter them in the chat section, and we will be discussing those with you and bringing the answers if time allows. Otherwise, we will make sure that after this, we will get back to individuals with the answers to their questions. Now, one of the other topics that I wanted to touch upon with you today is the possible elimination of the AES transmissions, or EEI. This is what we have all known throughout the years as SCDs. And I'm sure we all know the pain in the neck that SCDs have been throughout the years for us doing business with other U.S. jurisdictions. Let me give you a little background and context. Previously known as SCDs, filed to the U.S. Census Bureau back when Governor Hernandez Colon was in power. The United States Customs Territory includes only the states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. Of these, only Puerto Rico is required to comply with the EEI filing through AES, which is the Automated Export System, for domestic U.S. shipments moving to or from Puerto Rico between any U.S. point. The data gathering has not been presently used by the requester, the Puerto Rican government, consistently. Many commercial entities in U.S., and I'm sure a lot of you folks, especially now with all the online that we do, online shopping, and a lot of you folks in your business ongoing activity, you find yourselves sometimes trying to place an order with a supplier stateside, and he refuses to ship to Puerto Rico because it considers it international, and they don't have the ability to make these AEI transmissions. So therefore, it limits the opportunities of us buying in Puerto Rico, and it limits the opportunities of folks in the States being able to sell to us. This requirement doesn't exist for trade between other U.S. jurisdictions, only Puerto Rico. For example, if California has trade with Florida, they can track that trade, but they don't have this requirement. And this requirement of filing these is an operational and an economic burden to both domestic U.S. shippers exporting to Puerto Rico, as well as Puerto Rico shippers exporting to the U.S. The elimination of the EEI AES filing was included, by the way, in the recommendations of the bipartisan Congressional Task Force on Economic Growth for Puerto Rico right before PROMESA was established. So it is one of those key economic growth points for Puerto Rico. The EEI AES filing can be eliminated by means of a request to the U.S. Census Bureau and the U.S. Customs by the governor of Puerto Rico. So hopefully, we'll get that request coming through sometime. Elimination of the AES EEI transmissions between Puerto Rico and other U.S. jurisdictions. What are the opportunities? Okay. 1, cost reduction for domestic shipments between U.S. mainland and Puerto Rico, as currently carriers and forwarders charge anywhere from as low as $15 for a filing up to as high as $75 for each filing or each shipment. This is a direct cost to Puerto Rico consumers. Lowering the operational burden to trade between Puerto Rico and the U.S. mainland. 3, create a more competitive economic environment for Puerto Rico. Now, what do we need to do? I've mentioned here what it represents as far as obstacles and as far as impediments of doing business and as far as being a headache for exporters to and from Puerto Rico in the domestic trade. Now, what's happening right now? The foreign trade regulations request for public comments on the overall impact of the removal of this transmission filing requirements has been already put out there by the Census Bureau. So there is a proposed rule of eliminating it. However, in order to make that happen, we need to go online. We need to present our comments. The comments are only going to be open until November 16, 2020. So less than a month away. And you will see the link here where you need to go into the Federal Register documents, okay, and seek this particular rule so that way you can make your comments. Or if not, please take a shot with your camera, with your phone, of the link here so that way you can go in and make your comments. So that way we can eliminate this. If you need further information or you need me to send you the link, my contact information is right below the screen here, tom.vincent@primaircorp.com. Or you can call me on my cell, 787-210-7878. And with that, we come to the end of my presentation. Okay, and I want to pass it over now to Lydia, who will be conducting the rest of the presentation here on out. Okay, and thank you very much once again. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and I'll be more than glad to answer whatever questions you may have. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day and a great event. Bye. Stop the recording. Okay. Well,